open, transparent trading union cutting EU red tape. Europe needs reform.
Hello everybody and welcome to our June Strasbourg blog. We've been talking a lot this session about TTIP, which is the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. It's a very fancy name for a free trade agreement, and this is a free trade agreement between the European Union and the United States of America. And amazingly, that will cover almost half of world trade, which is a fantastic statistic if you think about it. What this would mean is that we would be reducing and removing largely tariffs so that we could have free trade. We would also be, as far as possible, trying to remove some of the non-tariff barriers to trade. These are the things that countries put in the way of being able to do trade, protectionism, but still complying with World Trade Organization rules. These are issues around things like labelling, where requirements are made which are so difficult that countries simply decide they're not going to bother to trade with each other. And so the free trade agreement, the TTIP, is designed to prevent that, to stop that from happening. So as a good free trade open market conservative, I of course support it, but it has been very controversial. It certainly has been looked upon by many of the NGO organisations of the left as a problem because frankly they're not in favour of free trade. Something I always find rather odd, because you would think that generally free trade creates jobs, it creates lower prices. You would think that this would be attractive, but apparently not. However, there are one or two issues that they come up with which are important, and one of those is something called ISDS, which is effectively the creation of a separate legal entity to arbitrate on any legal problems. Now, if I were involved in a free trade deal between the UK and, I don't know, take a country at random, how about the Democratic Republic of Congo, involved in all kinds of civil war, involved in all kinds of insurrection, military action, military coups over the years, I'd be pretty wary about entering into some deal that cost my company money when I knew that I would have no redress in those courts. So it may be necessary then to have something that was on top of the normal legal redress. It's a really moot point as to whether this is applicable in either Europe or the United States with our well-developed legal systems. So my own personal view is that an ISDS mechanism is not really necessary in this deal. But that, I have to tell you, for once, this is not the mainstream Conservative Party view. So I'm a little bit out on a limb on this one, so I'll be honest with you. But I do think it's important that we get the trade deal, and I don't think we should allow the left, who are trying to stop that deal at any cost, to let us be hoist on the petard of this settlement dispute. But let me reassure you, the signing of the deal is still several years away, so plenty of time still to discuss. So that's been the main buzz here at Strasbourg this week. We've also had reports on climate change, preparations for the December COP in Paris. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the year in a blog. And we've also done a report on equality between men and women, most of which is very worthy, but I'm afraid I had to vote against it because it's absolutely nothing to do with the EU. It's an issue of subsidiarity, and most of what it was asking for was asking member state governments to do things under the legal auspices of Europe, which is quite frankly not in the treaties and not necessary. So if you hear that I voted against equality for men and women, well, just bear in mind I didn't. I voted against Europe sticking its nose into it. It's a very different situation. So finally, here in Strasbourg this week, I've got a group of constituents from the southwest, and a few from the West Midlands have joined them. They will be coming round the parliaments, and at the end of the blog here, you'll see a few pictures of what we've been getting up to. So thank you very much for listening again this month. Look forward to talking to you in July.